And I got into this work really because I got thrown into motherhood. I had been a nurse for over 10 years. And then it came time to breastfeed that baby. She was born early and premature. And I was like, this is not how I'm not showing up for myself, how I show up for my families. I really need some support. And we were able to go on to breastfeed for 15 months. And I noticed that when we were in the hospital, there was people flocking to us, lactation consultant, left and right. You get one, and you get one, and you get one. And then we went home and it felt like a true desert, right? It can be very isolating in postpartum. But when I was trying to get lactation support, I really could not find very much support. I wound up finding a lactation consultant, looking through it for a lot of resources through actually WIC. And with her support and her help and her frequent check-ins, I did successfully breastfeed that baby. And then she mentored me actually to become an IBCLC. And so I got my certification, and now I am that supportive person for other moms. And so I walked the journey with you guys. I have a 4-year-old who breastfed for 2 years. She's mostly exclusively nursed, so two different journeys. And I needed this information with both of them on how to keep my flow going, because there were moments where it was some ebbs and flows. It was up and it was down. And I didn't really understand why that was happening, how my body works. And as I was troubleshooting it, I really didn't always have that support and information I needed. So I am happy and honored to be able to give that to you guys this afternoon and this evening. So today we're talking about increasing the milk flow. And you may be surprised as we go through this series and this presentation. May not be exactly what you were thinking you were going to get or expecting to get, but I promise you it's going to help you get some results. So as we dive into this session today, I've already kind of covered a little bit about me. Those are just some lovely little pictures and information about myself. But I want to be mindful of our time. I know we all are busy moms, wives, and providers, and all the things. And so I want to just really get right to the goodness of this presentation, and be mindful of y'all's time today. So before we can talk about or think about increasing flow, I first would love, Rita's going to help me with the chat. I want to hear from where you guys, I know that Natalia and Madison have already kind of shared where they're from, Montana and Tennessee. But Diamond and, is it Danica? Or how do you, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Danica.
Danica. Okay. Hi, Danica. Welcome. Where are you guys joining us from? And then let us know what season of postpartum y'all are in. Like, have you had your baby? Are you still waiting to have your baby? How old your baby is if you've already had him?
Okay, I can go first. I'm Diamond. I am from Michigan. I had my baby July 10th,
Okay.
and I breastfed my daughter before this. She'll be 2 December 9th. I
Okay.
breastfed her up until 4 months, and
Okay.
then it just became, she wasn't getting enough, I felt like. So, and she was okay with formula. So I gave her formula and whatnot. But my son, he does not want formula whatsoever. He turns his face up. Like, it'd be so funny. But it'd be so stressful when I can't get what I need for him and whatnot. So
Okay, well, we're going to talk about some ways to help you, especially considering you had your baby in July. So you're about what,
five,
5
almost
months?
5.
Okay, so we'll talk about some ways when we get further into our journey how to increase it and bring it back.
Okay.
Um, and
And
then,
we've got with Danica, she's from Louisville or
okay,
Louisville, depending on Louisville.
okay.
She's also a doula and always open to learn. All right.
Oh, well, thank you for joining. I'll actually be in your city in February for another conference. So awesome. Okay, so we're going to just really talk a little bit about the basics and what is controlling milk. If we're trying to increase the milk flow and we're trying to increase our body's ability to produce more milk, what is controlling it? What is in the driver's seat of milk? So there's a couple of things. First, it is the demand. So how often are you demanding on your body and placing an order basically to your body to say, I need more milk? So that's kind of that, it's up there at the top because it's one of the top contenders. So how often are you doing that? Is this a busy warehouse, or is this a warehouse that's barely getting any orders or any traction coming in? So Amazon, they like to stay busy and productive. That's how they're able to hire more workers, get more
Mhm.
packages out. We just had Prime Day deals, and we had the Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. So they love a busy warehouse. your body, if you want to have a lot of milk, we need to ensure that we're having enough signals and requests put into the body to make that milk. So whether you're nursing, pumping, it doesn't really matter. That's why I intentionally use the term milk removal to really define and be all encompassing of, hey, either a pump or a nursing, whichever one, your body is going to receive that is basically an order being placed. And then secondly, we talk about hormones. So have anybody heard of the hormones prolactin and oxytocin? Anybody? Let's go to the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So these are really two important hormones because, again, they're the driving force of what is going to determine if your body is getting the signals to make more milk. So prolactin is what I like to call our producer. So prolactin produce, that's what basically is a hormone that surges in your bloodstream and it says, oh my gosh, I need to make milk. Does anybody know when prolactin level is its highest? When does it like to do its thing? When does it like to show up strong and solid? Any guesses? Is it in the morning, in the middle of the day? Is it at night? When does it like to show up? When is it the highest?
Morning.
Morning, okay. Sleep, okay. Oh, these are some good. Oh, I like it. Y'all are coming up with some good stuff. Okay, so I would actually say it's kind of all of those things. So prolactin actually starts to surge at night. And so first thing in the morning, if you nurse or you pump, you usually have a much higher milk volume because now those levels in your bloodstream have really elevated and risen. So if we're trying to increase our milk flow, we want to know when the milk is going to be real abundant and full, right? So we want to take advantage of that. And then Danica, I think it's okay. Danica, as you actually also mentioned there, it feeds on sleep because if it tends to be higher in the night times, it's the circadian rhythm, and it's because that's usually when we're getting rest, right? Ideally, right? Not always with the newborn, but ideally that's when we're getting more rest. And so another way that we could increase our milk flow is if we either nurse or pump in the middle of the day after we've had a real good nap. Like we had one of those, like our baby slept real good. They were on their best behavior. They slept for 3 or 4 hours for us. That prolactin level could also be high at that time because your body has had an opportunity to rest, to restore, to be reset. So if we're thinking about ways that we want to increase our milk flow, that is definitely one way. It's considering what time you are nursing or pumping, and being mindful of what kind of rest or lack of rest your body's had. The body is real smart. Is that book that says, the body keeps score, the prolactin level keeps score as well. And so just being really mindful of that. Okay, and then oxytocin. This is good for you to know too, Natalia, with expecting your first baby because your prolactin levels are going to be really high. You're going to notice that your breasts feel a lot fuller in the middle of the night when you first start producing milk, and that's going to continue for a lot of your nursing journey. Another one is oxytocin. So tell me what the oxytocin does. What does oxytocin do? What is that good for? How does that help with milk? Absolutely. It is our happy hormone. So, Natalia, during labor, we noticed that oxytocin is that it's kind of like a happy feeling, a ooh, an ah. If you ever like think of something and something just gives you warm feelings, almost gives you like a chilling sensation, that's oxytocin that's actually happening, communicating with your brain. So, when we see a mom that's expectant or in postpartum, the oxytocin hormone plays on it and that impacts our milk flow. Oxytocin is the love hormone. It's when you looking down at your baby and you're bonding with your baby and you look at them and it just gives you these warm and amazing fuzzy feelings. It then signals a message to your brain that starts to contract up in the milk ducts and ejects that milk from way up here all the way down to your nipple. And during labor, It's when you may, want a kiss, or you may want a rub, or you may want a foot massage from your partner, because those same ooh ah feelings, those love feelings, and those love hormones that your partner can provide you, or a loved one can provide you, are going to contract your uterus to help get your baby earthside. So that contraction like feeling continues to happen right after you have your baby, and that helps shrink your uterus back down to its size, and it also helps to eject that milk out. So in the social media world, you'll probably hear it called like a milk ejection, or a letdown, or a release. You'll hear those terms. As your baby gets older and your milk starts to become more abundant, so like you, Madison, you're 2 weeks out, Diamond, you 5 months out, you're gonna start to hear that as swallows and sucks. And so you will start to hear that baby like get on the breast. They'll get on there and they'll start to kind of have some really rapid sucks, and that'll stimulate that milk to eject all the way down to the ducts. And then all of a sudden, as your milk is transitioning and you have more of it, you're going to start to hear that baby swallowing a lot. And some women feel that as that same kind of like warm, fuzzy feeling that you get, they'll feel a tingling sensation just kind of shoot up through their breast tissue. Some people feel it and some people don't. But that is really important to help with your milk flow. So we have to start to think like, okay, so if prolactin is good and oxytocin is good, and I'm trying to get more milk, what can I do to increase those things? What gives me those warm and fuzzy feelings? Is it looking, is it eating a certain food? Is it a comfort food that gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling? Is it holding my baby close to me? Is it kissing my baby on the mouth and the lips? Like, what gives me those warm feelings? Because if you can do that, that's going to help that milk to eject out and flow a lot easier. And then we also think about prolactin. What can I do to bring my prolactin level up? Is my body just telling me, hey, I need a three hour reset? I need you to just tap out and lay out for 3 hours so that I can get this rest on board and really cause this surge to happen to help your body to improve more milk. And we also want to think about, is the baby latching well? So if the baby doesn't have a really deep and adequate latch, so if they're just barely hanging out on the tip of the nipple here, and they're not getting a full deep latch, then guess what's happening? Milk is getting left behind because they're kind of sucking on here like it's through a kink straw. And when milk is left behind, it basically signals to the body, oh, warehouse is slow. You don't really need that milk. So I'm gonna just go ahead and drop it. You don't need it. And the same can happen whenever your baby, if they start transitioning and sleeping longer at night, and your body is still really dependent on you feeding through the night, or on really dependent on those middle of the night feedings to sustain things. So one thing, especially Diamond, it can be a little bit of a cadence and finding a rhythm, like, okay, can my body handle not feeding at night, or is it still really dependent on it? And I mentioned that to you because you have an older baby, and that's sometimes when we start to see babies sleeping longer sessions and nighttime weaning happening. We either have to adjust our expectations, or we have to see if our body truly is dependent upon us still signaling like, hey, baby can sleep, but let me pump, or let me still place that order and that demand so that the body will start to replenish your milk supply, if that's something that you're working through. Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, Madison, I see you in the comments saying, I seem to do better with the nipple shield. Okay, so that's some things to unpack, because that can actually impede our milk flow in some form of it. Because when you use a nipple shield, it is a tool, and we use it in lactation land as we need to. But with a nipple shield, it's a silicone barrier that goes over your nipple and covers your nipple. And your nipple port would traditionally have anywhere from 5 to 30 pores, meaning milk can come out of 5 to 30 holes. So if you're somebody that has 15 or 20 or 30 pores, and now you put this nipple shield on top of here with 5 holes, well, that really slows down the flow of your milk. So we start to think about, okay, maybe it was a tool that we used in the beginning. Maybe my breast tissue was just really swollen, or maybe my nipples were not erect and stimulated out. But now at 2 weeks, like you mentioned, Madison, how can I start to overcome that so that my baby can get access to those 30 pores and really drain that breast and then increase my milk flow and my supply. So a big way to start getting that baby off the shield is a lot of skin to skin. And whenever you go to latch the baby, instead of just letting the baby come at it straight on like this, you're going to tilt and elevate that nipple up. And when you do that, it becomes a starting point for the baby. And they don't have to grip onto a lot because they're really pulling in the breast tissue. Part of it is the nipple, but it's really about that breast tissue. So that is something to consider and could be a way, Madison, where you could improve your milk flow to your baby. So just some kind of things to consider, right? And that's why we're in this space together, guys, is so that you have an opportunity to get information about how you can improve your milk flow for you and your baby and what's going on with you. So I'm watching the chat for you guys so I can definitely be mindful of what you guys have going on. All right. And we already kind of talked a little bit about rest. I remember people telling me when I had my first baby, oh, it's like the infamous line, oh, just sleep when the baby sleeps. And I'm like, do you see these dishes? Like, do you see all these dishes in the washer? Like, do you know how much I have going on right now? Or all these dishes in the sink? There's a lot of things going on. Or I'm over here looking at this laundry basket. Like, I got things to do. You want me to sleep when the baby is sleeping? And then I had that second one, and I was like, oh, this is what the people meant. I understand now. And I did a lot more resting and letting things go to improve my milk flow while my baby was sleeping. So it might be, you know what, laundry ain't gonna get done now. Or you know what, when my mom comes to see me, I'm gonna ask her if she can help me with the laundry. And I'm just gonna go ahead and take a good solid nap now. And when I did that, I noticed that I had a lot more milk because my body was having an opportunity to get rest. Now, rest and sleep sometimes are harmonious, sometimes they look a little bit different. I'm not saying that I'm expecting you to sleep through the night to have more milk. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying when you have a moment to pause, to reset, to reflect, to journal, to do those things, I really encourage those outlets in order for you to increase your milk flow. Okay, so I see you, Diamond. Now your baby's 5 months, so it could be a little bit different for you. But you said my son doesn't latch far on my nipple. He's only on the nip. Okay, so sometimes the dynamics change a little bit as babies get older, because they utilize the nipple for different reasons. They use it for comfort, for soothing, and those kind of things. Usually by that, even if he's more shallow on the tip when you're 5 months old, his suction is a lot stronger and a lot more efficient. So it doesn't usually affect babies unless you're having pain and discomfort 5 months out. But great observation. So thank you for sharing that. And then we think about our emotional well-being and safety. Okay, so if we're having higher stress levels, it causes our cortisol to go up. And cortisol comes right here to oxytocin and it just knocks that oxytocin right out. So if your stress level is really high, it can impede your milk flow because it's inhibiting you from having those ooh, ah, and warm feelings. It's sending your body. Welcome, Tamara. Welcome to the space. Welcome. We are talking all things milk flow. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Welcome. Welcome. We welcome all. We welcome the little
Yes.
ones too.
Okay. Thank you.
But how can you improve your emotional well-being? What are some ways, Natalia? This is good things to think about. If your stress levels go up, how are you gonna get those stress levels down? What are your tools? Anybody want to share in the chat? I'm gonna have you help me with that, Rita.
I think a big one for me that I've been thinking a lot about is just having the community of people to support and like having that person come over and just be like, can you just give me an hour, or just having people there that are willing to help you out when you are getting to that point of stress overload.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love that you shared that. Yeah, the village, letting the village, thinking preemptively like, hey, can I prepare some crock pot meals ahead of time that are nourishing, that are going to help me show up for myself and for my baby better in postpartum? Can I have a nesting party instead of the baby shower, or in addition to the baby shower, where I kind of get all those things off my plate and I can reduce my stress levels so that, and when I'm in postpartum, I'm not just engulfed with chaos. Those are some things that you want to start to think about. So I love that you shared that.
And then Danica said soaking in the tub.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mama,
Even bring in like essential oils such
my
as
brother
lavender.
couldn't.
We have little ones on the call today. I love it.
They got their input on breast milk.
They do. They do. Welcome as people are starting to come into the space. Welcome and thank you guys for being with us here
Yes.
today. Hang with us to the end because we're known to do some giveaways. So hang with us. But yes, great suggestions. Soaking in the tub. And if you don't have any allergens, adding some lavender drops in the tub can be extremely relaxing. Those herbal bath kits that support your recovery and postpartum, a lot of those have fresh lavender herbs in them. Epsom salt, because the magnesium in there is going to really relax you and calm you. And when you are calm, that energy is transferred to your baby, and it's also transferred throughout your body, and that avoids any blockage so that milk and that oxytocin can increase and your milk can flow. So yeah, I give this, my favorite analogy is your body is essentially the warehouse or the restaurant, whichever one you want to roll with. And the more VIP customers we have coming in, the more orders get placed, the higher revenue we have going on, the more milk flow we're going to have, the more milk output we're going to have, the longer we're going to stay in business, the longer you're going to be able to give your baby human breast milk. So if we don't really have a lot of traffic coming in, we're not doing a lot of social media promotion, people not coming in to see us, the restaurant is not going to do as well, and it's slowly going to start to lose revenue, lose traction, and unfortunately it's going to close down. And that could be your milk starting to dry up. So we just want to ensure that every customer is welcome, every feeding is encouraged. If you are primarily pumping, that you're having enough milk removals throughout the day. All right, so we've kind of talked about some of the things that control it. So let's get into the nitty gritty of it. How can we start to make more of this milk? Or how can we increase our milk flow? So if you are under 6 months, it is highly likely that you're going to still need to have at least 8 feedings or nursing sessions a day to signal for your body to make more milk. Does anyone know when the most crucial time frame is for milk production early on? I'm dropping a little bit of clues. Milk production early on. When is the most crucial window of telling your body, I need you to make this much milk and I need you to do this for a long time? When is that? Anybody, any guesses? First 6 weeks. Okay, yep, you're hitting it. We hear that it's first 40 days, first 6 weeks. So you think about your first appointment to either your midwife or OB. That is when you want to really keep things flowing. But you actually nailed it, Queen. I'm not sure your full first name, if Queen is your first name.
You can unmute your mic if you want to, Queen. Is it Kiera? Kiera?
It's Kira. Yes,
Kira.
ma'am.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
you nailed it, Queen. You got it, because the first 2 weeks is the most crucial time frame for your milk supply. So if you are having less than 8 to 10 feedings or pumps or nursing sessions, combination of both pumping and nursing, then your body is going to be really confused. It doesn't know how much to make. So if your primarily goal is to have that baby at the breast long term, so for like you, Natalia, you really want to just let that baby feed what we call on demand, which means you're the 24/7 restaurant. You like the Waffle House, 24/7. Whenever the baby want to come in and get food, they can. There's no denying. There's no looking at the clock and being like, you know what? It's not quite time yet. It's just open. It's plentiful. It's the buffet. And that's really going to set your body up for success. And so we try to be mindful of adding extra pumps or extra stimulation in the first 2 weeks because we really want the body to just do its thing. Like, here you go, have at it. Really kind of do that. Now, another thing you can do alongside that is sometimes using tools if you know that, hey, I got to go back to work or I want to increase how long I'm able to give my baby breast milk for, even when I decide to stop. So I have some families that decide, like, hey, when I go back to work at 3 or 4 months, I'm no longer going to continue pumping or breastfeeding, but I want to kind of stockpile my milk up when it's high early on so that I can save that milk. And so that's where moms are using or parents are using things like milk collectors and tools like that because they want to take advantage of their higher milk supply. And so what that means is that they may feed the baby on one breast, and on the other breast, they may attach one of those hakas or milk collector tools to gently and allow it to passively pull off that milk. And that will essentially, for that family, help them increase their longevity of giving human milk. There's risk involved with that. You want to make sure that you're not stealing groceries, as I like to call it, from the baby. So if you nurse on one side and you put the haka on right away, and then the baby still wants to nurse over here, the haka kind of got some of the groceries in there. So you just want to be mindful. So it may look like a leftover catcher instead. I'm going to nurse my baby on this side. I'm going to nurse my baby over here. And then now I'm going to catch those leftovers for my reserve. So just being mindful of that. And then we don't really, always have to focus on minutes when we're nursing or pumping. We want to make sure that we're having efficient drainage. So that means, do my breasts soften? Does it feel like I'm getting a lot of the milk out of here? If my baby nurses and my breasts feel just as firm as before the baby nurse, then that tells me that, hey, maybe something is going on with the baby. They're not as hungry, or they have something anatomically going on where they're not draining my breasts. Long term, what effect do you think that may have if the baby is not getting all the milk out? What might that do to your body?
Make your milk slow.
Absolutely. It's like the restaurant closing down analogy. So we want to make sure that the breasts are being drained really well. And so if you had expectation, we don't really see the milk when we're nursing. So when we're nursing, we're looking for good signs of milk flow or diaper counts, weight checks. The baby is gaining weight and is back to the birth weight by 2 weeks and continues to gain and grow on their own growth curve. That they're having by 1 week 5 to 6 wet diapers a day, and that they're having 3 to 4 poopy diapers and that are yellow and seedy. So over time, those are signs and signals that say, doing a good job, doing everything you should be doing. Now, if we were back at work or if we desired to only pump, we would go based on a full milk supply, which is at 3 weeks. We would expect 3 to 4 ounces from both breasts combined. That is considered a full milk supply. So if you are pumping every 2 to 3 hours, at 3 hours, if you're getting 3 to 4 ounces and you do that around the clock throughout the day, I'll do the math for y'all. That's about 8 times a day. You would have a full milk supply, and that would be enough. Now, if you don't feel like you're quite hitting those numbers, stop and ask yourself, am I looking for these numbers after I've nursed my baby? Because if my baby's got the milk out, I can't expect to have those same numbers. And in that instance, if the baby had nursed really well, we would only expect 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce from both breasts combined. So it's really important to consider what the dynamics are. You're further diamond into your breastfeeding relationship, and so your response to the pump could change. And so you have to kind of look and assess, like, has my nipple size gone down because my baby has gotten older? I'm further into this. I don't have that same fullness, which is very normal, that I had before. Maybe I need to recheck my phalange size. So those are kind of some things to consider.
Mika made a comment about as far as the breast and if you're not releasing that milk, the engorgement. So she mentioned that, and then Diamond, she said you're experiencing that right now. Okay, yeah, she's experiencing that right now. Okay, good.
Yes, and engorgement can in turn lead to a like a dammed river full of milk that is not getting out, and so it's just kind of like collecting together. And after that milk collects together and sits in the breast, it's like, oh, she don't need me. Let me go ahead and just stop making this milk, or let me slow down the production of this milk so things don't stay clogged and back up. You no longer need this milk. And so when you start to experience things like clogged ducts, or you start to experience out engorgement out of the early phase, right? You'll experience some level of engorgement when your milk is just transitioning normally for you, Natalia, that first week. But when we're out of that phase and we start to experience it, maybe we've gone too long between a feeding, or maybe our baby slept 6 hours at night and that changed, and either the body is going to adjust to that and the flow will adjust accordingly, or it's our body saying, I can't handle you going 6 hours. The baby might sleep and be gaining and growing fine, but I might need you to kind of help me out by removing some of that milk a little bit. Okay, Diamond, I was very worried because I haven't been emptying and I can feel the fact that it's not emptying. Okay, so yeah, so you want to kind of assess, has something changed? Have you started solids with your baby? Is your baby getting full off of solids and then not having a desire to, drain and nurse at the breast as efficiently? Is the baby going through a distracted time of feeding, which is very, very common for a 5-month-old? And so during the day, they may pop on and pop off and pop on and pop off because they're so distracted. And that could leave milk behind and signal to the body that it doesn't need that milk. And so things to do with distracted feedings that would then again reset your milk flow is going into an environment that is, less noisy and chaotic, going into a dark room, clipping a toy onto your breast strap that the baby can look at, especially like those little mirror toys that'll kind of give them a point of attention and attraction to focus on when they're looking up at the breast, to really stay focused and finish that feeding. Maybe you're going to help him out and go back to the beginning where you're doing a little bit of breast compressions while he's on there nursing to really help push that milk to the baby a little bit more. And then if you're just trying and doing all those things and you're still feeling like it's not adequate, then consider and see, like, okay, maybe see what it feels like if you pump 1 or 2 times after those sessions. But I bet in that case, Diamond, for you, your baby is probably making it up and feeding more often at night because they're less distracted. Environment is less excitable, and then they really home in and focus, and so that they're getting more of those feedings during the night, which is making your prolactin surge, and then in turn making you make more milk and having that kind of residual engorgement. So the good thing is the body will adjust. It's very amazing, and you guys will just continue to communicate with one another, and your body will start to regulate and really, be aware of what it needs.
It's not
And
when I'm feeding him, it's really when I'm pumping. I was
Mhm.
originally using wearable pumps because I was
Okay.
back to work, and I
Okay.
just went back to the wall pumps, but I haven't been getting nothing but probably an ounce and a half. I just got 2 ounces today.
Okay. And is that after you nursed him?
No, this is at work.
Okay.
This is the morning. Yes, I nursed him before I left, but when I'm at work, I just and then I 2 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
I've only that.
Okay.
I
So
just
some of
recently
these
went
things that
back
we're
to the
talking
wall
about.
pump.
Okay. Yeah, going back to the wall pump, reassessing your phalanges, even doing some massaging while you're pumping. So when you have the phalanges on here, coming back behind here and doing some good breast compressions and massages, you may, to just reset your body, you may even benefit from some temporary what we call power pumping, where it's basically trying to mimic a baby cluster feeding. So pump for 20 minutes, wait 10 minutes, pump 10 minutes, wait 10 minutes, pump 10 minutes, where you do that for like an hour once a day for 3 to 5 days. It's meant to be temporary to just give your body a reset, but also kind of consider things like, has your menstrual cycle come back? Are you on your cycle? That can impede and affect your milk flow.
then Patricia said she's experiencing that with one of her breasts, has a slower milk flow.
Mm-hmm.
However, she gets a lot out of it, but it just seems to slowly flow when she's pumping. And then she also formula feed the baby because she said it's hard to kind of pump the milk out at work. And
Mm-hmm.
she just kind of needs some input on that.
Okay. So again, we want to make sure, like, think about sometimes when we introduce alternative feeds, sometimes we have to because we're going back to work, but that can also kind of be like someone coming into your restaurant with outside food. It's gonna, if the baby sees that outside food and eats that food, it makes them not want to order from you or not want to order from the restaurant, and so then that starts to impede your milk flow. And so just making sure that when your baby is getting offered alternative food in like bottle or formula, that you're somehow trying to signal to your brain that it in your body that it needs to still make that milk. So whether you add pumps in, you're pumping more frequently and more often. So instead of every 4 hours, you're doing every 3, and you do that, and then let your body adjust to the change. That is the biggest thing. If we do it one time, I promise y'all, we all want instant gratification, but it doesn't kick in that quickly. And so really giving your body time to adjust to that change. I say a minimum of a week before you make those changes. So yes. And then going back to the basics, like we can think of a lot of things, but bringing your baby close to you when you're separated and you're at work, looking at pictures and actual videos of your baby or FaceTiming them if you can. Your brain is going to feed biologically on the sound of their crying, their voice. It literally is like a connection, and that oxytocin, which helps your milk to eject and let down, it immediately kicks in. So you want to think about, is there sounds or things that you do when your milk is ejecting and releasing, whether you can see that visually with the pump or you can feel it or you hear your baby swallowing. Think of something. Okay, I'm thinking of lavender. Every single time I feel my milk eject or let down. Well, your brain is going to remember that. And after a couple of days of doing that same thing, it's called brain mapping. All you have to do is start thinking of lavender, and your body is going to immediately have an ejection and a release of milk. Similar thing to like what they call guided imagery. So our menstrual cycle can definitely affect temporarily our milk flow. And so if we're dealing with our menstrual cycle returning, there's some really good information. I will link it in the chat in just a moment, from La Leche League, that talks about utilizing calcium and magnesium to replenish what our body is deficient in when our menstrual cycle returns. And for some families, that can help them with resetting and replenishing their bodies to then improve their milk flow. So some families take that proactively, a low dose once a day. Some families take it right before they start their cycle, once they start tracking it through while they're bleeding, and that can have an increased milk flow for them. But realizing that it is temporary, and it is just a play on the hormones a lot when the menstrual cycle returns. Um, Hydration. Okay, who's heard about the Gatorades? Let me know in the chat. What are some drinks that you've heard increase milk supply? Because I see it. I see it in the chat all the time. I see it on the TikTok and in the Instagram streets. Okay, Body Armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I hear that one a lot. Coconut water. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Ice water. Interesting. Interesting. I haven't heard that one before, Diamond. That's the first. Hot chocolate. Okay. This is interesting. I could really go with this a lot of different ways. So, our body likes to be hydrated, but it's not, y'all, in excess where you're like chugging unnecessarily and forcing your body. It's drinking to thirst, a minimum of half your body weight. So, nobody wants to get on the scale, but whatever that number is, take about half of that. Make sure you're having that. Coconut water is really helpful because it has 3 times hydration, and it also has a lot of vitamin C. And breast milk production, it loves protein and it loves vitamin C. So if you're keeping your protein levels up by ensuring that you have enough protein on board, then it can also help with your milk. Another thing, chamomile tea. Yep, because guess what it's doing? It's getting that stress level down and it's relaxing you. So if you have a relaxant response to the chamomile tea, it may help your milk supply. If the chamomile tea is not hitting for you and you don't believe in the chamomile tea and you're not receiving that well in your body, then you may not get to have that same flow. All right. And then Coffee.
protein shake, protein smoothies, fruit.
Oat milk. Okay, yeah. So oat milk actually can work because it is oats are known what we call galactagogue, which are foods that are known to increase our milk supply. So that is why we see a lot of people that eat oatmeal or utilize oat milk. That's why it's helpful to your milk production. And the body armors work because they have electrolytes and minerals that may be replenishing your body if you're depleted in those things. And they have a coconut base, which we mentioned about the vitamin C. So I would advise if you, or I would not even advise, I would suggest that if you're utilizing the body armors a lot, be mindful of the sugar content that is in them. And so if you're somebody that has insulin resistance or high blood sugars, they actually could make your blood sugars worse, which could affect your milk supply. So maybe consider the body armor lights and just be mindful of how if you throwing back 4 body armors a day, that is a lot of sugar. And so
Right.
your body could have an opposite reaction to that because it's surging your insulin levels. And that can have an effect on your milk flow and your supply. All right. So who who has done hand expression after they pump and notice that they still get milk out? Anybody in the chat? I'm gonna let you monitor that for me, Rita.
Okay.
Anybody in the chat? Have you, when you get done pumping, have you taken the pump off and done some hand expression?
Patricia said she do.
Absolutely. Because guess what, y'all? These pumps are great tools for us, but they are only efficient at about pulling off 60 to 80% of our milk. And so there's always something in the background. So if you're trying to make a demand similar to power pumping for your body to increase the flow or the milk production, then doing some hand expression for 3 or 5 minutes when you get done pumping, hey, that's another way to get more milk.
Yeah, Diamond said she's going to try it out. She said, I'll squeeze just to see
Yes.
it.
And so hand expression is finding the sweet spot. So I like to take my fingers and line it up with the nipple. So you'll notice my hand is kind of underneath here. That's going to cup the breast and be naturally massaging. I'm going to line my fingers up like this is kind of like a stoplight. So finger on top, finger underneath. I'm going to push back into the breast and I'm going to roll my fingers forward. Push back and roll. And you're going to start to see that milk will start to flow out of there. And everybody is different. So if this doesn't work, come over to the side, come back behind there, gently push in and release. Now, it should not be causing any discomfort. If you're doing that, then you're probably going a little bit too deep.
And then Tamara said, how will I catch the milk if I take the pump off?
Absolutely. So there's a couple different hacks for that. Sometimes I just have my family kind of come right here. You can use your phalange, and guess what? It's going to just flow right in there. You leave this on. Don't take it off like I just did. If you just come here and hand express right into there, you can express into a mason jar. You can take the bottle off. You can express right directly into the bottle itself. Those are some ways that you can catch that milk still. If you're early on in the first couple days, you can use little syringes or little shot glasses because you can clean those out a lot easier and sterilize those and clean those well. You can even use those things. So hydration, we talked a little bit about our stress assessment and how we can get our stress levels down. So meditation is huge because when we allow our minds to go to a different space when we meditate, it essentially almost allows our brain to go into a hypnosis kind of state when we're listening to guided meditations that are talking to our brain and relaxing our brain. And then all of a sudden that shoots your prolactin levels up because your body has that feeling of a rest or a reset. Just even a 5 or a 10-minute meditation can have a huge increase on your milk supply. So balance is one that I use a lot. Brain tap is one that I use. I mean, there's ones on YouTube. They even have ones that are specific for nursing and breastfeeding families that you can utilize on there as well. And then especially for somebody mentioned they were back at work with dealing with, the stress and frustration of that. Can we create a different work environment, a different pumping environment when you're at work? Can you turn the lights down? Can you put your AirPods in and maybe listen to a guided meditation? Can you listen to a waterfall sound? When you listen to a waterfall and you're pumping, it's that brain mapping tool that I just shared with you, and your brain can start to associate the sound of a waterfall with releasing and allowing your milk to eject out. So that's another thing that you could also utilize.
Before you go on, Patricia asked a question. She said, "What does it mean if your breasts become a little sore? Is that an issue?"
Give me a little more context if you don't mind, Patricia. Sore after you nurse the baby, after you pump.
You
Kind of
can
let
unmute
me know a
your
little bit
mic.
more.
If you want to unmute your mic, Patricia, you can do that too.
Just sore like in general. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be after pumping, but just like yeah, I guess you can say after pumping and nursing as well too. Like to just feel a little bit sore.
Okay. So it could mean a couple different things. It could mean if the baby is latching, that maybe they're just latching on the tip of the nipple, which also impedes your milk flow, and that more shallow latch is causing some soreness and discomfort. So it would be doing things like I kind of showed earlier, where you tilt that nipple up so that this nipple goes towards the roof of the baby's mouth instead of straight back. This is like going into a dead end, and your nipple is going to get a lot of friction and a lot of tension. Where we actually want that nipple to land is up towards the roof of the mouth. So it's intentionally ensuring that the baby is doing that. And then when you go to pump, you want to make sure, especially if you're using wearable pumps, wall pumps as well, that there's not a lot of space around the phalange. Really, only thing that should be coming in here is the tip of the nipple. So for example, if I was to use my little sizing tool that I do during my consults, and I can do these virtually as well as I do them in person, I would size this nipple all the way down to a size 10. 10. So if you're using a 24 and your nipple is a size 10, that is going to suck in a lot of the areola, and it's going to put a lot of friction and tension on your nipple. And so going down on your size could help. You could also use like a pump spray that I have here, and you could spray that or get some coconut oil if you're not allergic to that, or olive oil, and put it here so that whenever your nipple is gliding into the pump, that it decreases the friction and you have less discomfort. And then it's using some healing products on your nipples in between when you're dealing with that soreness. So a nipple butter, such as ours, that has calendula in it, which will be, spoiler alert, one of the giveaways today. Um, or or Earth Mama or Mother's Love that has calendula. Any kind of nipple butter that has calendula in it. You can also use any non-lanolin products, nipple butters, to lubricate the inside of your phalange as well. So you can coat a little bit of your nipple butter right here inside your phalange, and that'll increase the comfort for you.
So
Great question.
if you're using, so like you said, the 24 flange, so if the nipple is 10, you're not supposed to use a 24.
No, I would start at a 10 when if I was working with you in person in my office. I have lots of flanges. Virtually, we don't always have that. So we will start, like, if you truly measure, we do a fitting together and you measure at a 10, I will have you order 10s, and we will start with the 10, and I'll have you order a 10 and a 12. And we may wind up using the 10 or the 12. And that does two things. It puts more of the stimulation just on the nipple, which improves your milk flow. So you get comfort. Now you're not tensing up. Now you're not, oh, it's about to hurt, right? You don't have those feelings. Plus, now it's putting the sensation just where it needs to be. And so the milk is going to spray out and eject out a lot better. And you often have more milk because of that as well.
Thank you, because I think I
Yeah.
have been using, like, because I use a 24 and it does like puts friction on around the areola, and it's not supposed to. So I'll probably
It's not
just,
supposed to.
yeah, I'll just size down because I do have a lot of flanges.
Yes, and they have these things for like $2 and $3 on Amazon, like the little sizer. This is a great place to start. A lot of them will even have, like, this one here has, let me see if I can get it to focus. See the measuring numbers up there? So sometimes you start here as a guide, and then I'll actually measure, and you just really only want the tip of the nipple coming in. It's not measuring down here at the base. It's just the tip, which is just this end here, not down here. And so if you wanted to do a one-on-one, that's definitely something we can unpack a little bit more just to make sure you get the right size. But yeah, all those things will impede and affect your milk flow. So we talked about latching. So if that pump is not serving you well, Patricia, and the baby is latching fine, you're dealing with residual soreness from that that too big phalange, and it's just kind of like layering on top of whenever baby goes to nurse. It's not that the baby is causing that, but you're dealing with that discomfort from there. All right. So we also want to make sure we hear baby swallowing. We want to make sure our breast feels softer because if they stay full like this picture here, our body is going to think what, guys? What is it going to think based on this? The breasts are really full. What is it going to think about milk flow and production?
It's not needed.
Exactly. And it's going to down regulate it. So this is actually more how we want to keep our breasts more drained. There's always going to be something in there. You're not going to get 100% empty. No matter if you pump, nurse, do all the things. The breasts are constantly refilling. So when you drain them, they're like, oh, let me make some more milk. I got another baby that might feed any moment. So there's always going to be something left in there for that baby. Now, if the pump gets that out, not always, but you could do hand expression and you're going to still be able to hand express milk afterwards. All right. And so that brings me right on into our pump conversation about the correct sizing, changing your pump parts. Ladies, if we are back at work and we are pumping 3 times a day, these soft pump parts, so that's going to be this, for example, on this Spectro one or Motif one, that little anything soft, this soft silicone disc, that needs to be changed once a month. Or if you feel like your suction slows down, the duct valve needs to be changed at least a month. If you're not pumping as often, every 2 or 3 months is fine unless you're feeling a change in the flow. Then you want to start considering changing those pump parts out. Okay, so who has heard about the drinks and the supplements and the teas? I know that's what y'all came to the class to hear. Who's ready for an instant fix and heard about supplements or teas? Let me know in the chat. What have you heard?
Diamond says she has. She heard about the teas. So let's see here. Catherine, okay. Who else we got? Madison
Okay.
says she haven't. Patricia says she has, and Queen Kiera says she has.
Okay.
Natalia haven't. She's a new mom, expecting pretty soon.
All right. So it's a loaded question. I will say there are foods and there are herbs that can support milk production. When we are dealing with herbs in particular, it is extremely important to work with someone, whether you're working with a herbalist or an IBCLC that is skilled in herbs. We need to know what your health history is. If you are somebody that has a history of a thyroid condition, there are certain herbs that are going to not work well for you and some that are going to work better. Those can all play on your health history. If you're somebody that has diabetes, high blood sugar, there are herbs that are going to drop your blood sugar. So if you're already taking blood sugar meds like metformin and you take those herbs, it could be further in lowering your blood sugar, which is going to have an effect on your milk flow. So you just want to really be mindful before you just start taking things that either someone suggested or that are trendy, because they may work really well for someone else, but for you and your body and what your health history is, they may actually drop your milk supply further. So a big one that I see a lot of times is like a mother's milk tea or mother's tea, and that has fenugreek in it. And what fenugreek, it's an herb that you have to take enough of it, first of all, for your urine and for your sweat to smell like maple syrup. And so it's not at a therapeutic dose to actually work unless your urine smells like maple syrup. But if you don't know that and you're drinking the tea and you're just drinking it once a day and you're like, it's not working, well, we have to know how the herb works and what therapeutic outcome we're expecting to see in order for, or what threshold we're expecting to see in order for it to be therapeutic. If you have insulin resistance and diabetes, sometimes it can lower your blood sugar levels. If you're taking something already, again, that may not be the herb for you. And then there are different proprietary blends on the market, meaning there are herbs that are paired well together, But when you take those in a blended kind of capsule form, you don't know how much of each one is in there. So you may not fully be getting the full benefits of that herb. And so it's really, really, really important that herbs can be extremely helpful with milk production. We utilize them in our practice once we've covered all the basics first, but they're not our first line to just say, oh, here you go, just take this tea and it'll increase your supply. I want to make sure that nothing can replace the orders and the customers in the restaurant. So we want to make sure that we've covered the basics first before we go bring in other things. Now, I did put together for you guys as a freebie today because it's not as specific on your health history and background. It's some milk making foods. Like, what foods can I cook with or incorporate in my diet that are going to help improve my milk supply? Oatmeal is one that we see a lot, and it really is. There is research and data to show that it is a known galactagogue or milk producing food. There's also chia seeds, flax seeds, and guess what, y'all? They don't have a taste. So if you think you may not like them, give it a try, because a lot of times you're not even going to taste it, and they have a really high fiber count, and so it's really good for your body. And quinoa and chia seeds and flax seeds bring a little bit more protein. And we talked about how milk production and milk flow loves protein. So those are some things to consider. Nuts, avocados, salmon. Those are some of the foods. So if you want to capture this, I know Rita also has this hard copy of this, where she'll send it out to you guys as well. But if you want to stop and scan right here, you definitely can. Excuse me. And then I also have a herbal guide for lactation specifically that I've created that has a lot of herbs that we use in lactation with the appropriate amounts, with the contraindications. If you have this, please don't take this. With the disclosure of, making sure you're working with a lactation consultant or discussing it with your health practitioner or provider. But it gives you a list of herbs that are actually really beneficial. And then it tells you a suggested amount for you to consume and how long it takes for that herb to work, so that you really have a lot more knowledge and education on that information. And then we also just want to be mindful, again, like the basics are covered. And then when we're utilizing these, that we are working alongside people that really have a knowledge and an understanding of them.
Oh, we do have a quick question before you go on. Natalia wants to ask, she has heard that it's not really like you should avoid caffeine in your drinks when you're breastfeeding. She wanted to know, is that true?
It's individualized. Technically, it is safe for you to consume, so you can have up to 200 milligrams a day. But because caffeine can be dehydrating, so it's not as hydrating, it can cause you to diurese in a different kind of way and affect your milk supply. So what I usually suggest is that if you're gonna have caffeine, either nurse or pump your baby first and then have your caffeine. It's gonna hit your bloodstream, and then by the time, hydrate really well before you go to have your next session to nurse or pump, and that will help replenish it and bring it back up again. But it can affect. I know I had a sensitivity with my own second daughter when I had caffeine, and so I would have to kind of just be a little bit more mindful of how I strategized it whenever I went to have it. I would nurse or pump first, and then I would have my caffeine and hydrate really well before I did it again. But we don't want to bring our happy foods and our happiness, out of everything. It's just being mindful of the effect that they can have. All right. So hopefully you guys were able to grab those. And so protecting your energy and your space, like Natalia, you already mentioned about, some strategies and techniques. I mentioned the Balance app and the Brain Tap app. If you are needing postpartum support, working through any mental health, whether it's postpartum anxiety, depression, all those things can affect your milk supply. So Mamaya is a resource that is covered by insurances, and they are virtual. And then there's also the Postpartum Association that can give support too, called PSI. Those are some resources that you can utilize. There's also a Shades of Blue project that also has some free resources for mental therapy and resources for postpartum support as well. So when we resolve all those things, the block that gets created here, because either we're thinking about 15 million things and obsessing about those or having repetitive thoughts about those, or our mood is lowered and depressed, all those things can help. Once they're reset, they can allow your milk to flow a lot better. So even in one of the teas that we created, because we know that, mood swings and hormone changes exist, we have moringa in it, which is a super green food that is really helpful and doesn't really play much on most people's hormones or health history. It's like a super green food that in the Philippines and the Asian countries they use in postpartum a lot. So we paired that with matcha, so for the vibe of like a little warm drink, and it has a little hint of ashwagandha, which is a known hormone to kind of relax your mood. And when we can relax you, it then is going to bring that oxytocin up and allow your milk to flow a lot more freely.
We got one more question before you go in. Tashina wanted to know, how can she get one breast to catch up in size with the other? And then she said the left one produces more and it's bigger, but the right one barely produces and it's smaller.
Okay, so that is common to have one breast first. Let me say, preface that it's common to have one breast produce more than the other. Usually it's not as skewed as what it sounds like you're describing. If there was an issue on that right breast early on, it could have been that some milk got retained and not left behind, either from a pump or a nursing session, and it caused a clogged duct that didn't get resolved. It will cause lacogenesis 3, which is milk involution to that breast, where it slows down the milk production to try to protect the body from things like mastitis. And so the only way, you may not ever be able to get it to catch up. Oftentimes, this breast over here will go double time to make up for a lack of milk over here. One thing that you can try is doing a couple of sessions, if you are pumping, of only pumping that side by itself for an extra 5 minutes or so, with just only the tubing connected or suction only on that one breast, and then feeding the baby more on that breast, and then doing some hand expression. So you're basically placing more orders to the restaurant on that one breast that has a lower count or lower amount of milk. Hope that helps. All right. When do I reach out? Okay. So pain beyond the first couple seconds of latching or pumping, that is a reason that we want to assess the fit to improve milk flow. We want to improve the latch. So we want to consider angling that nipple up more to see if we can improve that latch, which then will cause you to be more relaxed and increase your milk flow. We want to make sure that the baby is not taking beyond what we're making every single session, because it's like setting yourself up for failure. So the amazing thing about breast milk is that the composition and what's in it constantly changes. So your baby is not going to have to be forced to take a higher volume as they get older. Most breastfed babies tap out on 4 to 5 ounces of breast milk, and they will start to slowly stretch out how long they eat. But if you start giving them higher amounts than you're making, it's going to be really hard for you to keep up with that, because you're basically you're giving them more than your body is expected to be making. And then if your your milk has not transitioned past the colostrum phase early on at 7 days, that's a reason to reach out. And if you've had a drop that you can't attribute to something, a baby sleeping through the night, a menstrual cycle, I know I was YOLOing and didn't get enough milk removals in. Like, if there's nothing that you can kind of track it down to, then you want to kind of definitely reach out to see if we can unpack what's caused it. And speaking of reach outs, here's my information on how to reach me. I am pretty active on Instagram as well under Breast Choice Lactation. And this is our website, how to reach us by email and by phone. It is textable. So if you have like ways you want to connect or you want to reach out for services, we do accept some insurances, Cigna and United Healthcare, and some Aetna plans. So we can do virtual consults that could be completely covered by your insurance. And that is what I have for you.
All right.